The relay was dying. Inside a failing station above a forgotten frontier, a human billionaire made a choice that would permanently damage the system he built to save others. Warning lights flashed across cracked displays. Power drained from critical networks. Every second carried a cost, and the decision could never be reversed. Welcome to Galactic Contact. Tonight, we follow the story of a human and an alien princess whose hidden secrets forced two civilizations to face the price of trust. The first warning appeared as a change in the station's electromagnetic field. Adrian Vale noticed it before the alarms. The Vesper relay still rotated above the frontier moon, but the pattern was wrong. The station was drawing power unevenly. Sections that should have remained stable were consuming energy faster than damaged areas. His cockpit displayed the anomaly through 3 different systems. Human instruments showed rising thermal imbalance. Helios navigation software predicted structural failure in 17 minutes. The E3 monitoring device attached to the diplomatic channel showed invisible fluctuations moving through the station's systems like a nervous system under stress. Adrian studied the alien sensor feed. "You're seeing more than my equipment." The woman behind him kept watching the display. E3 systems measure relationships between failures, meaning a damaged component rarely fails alone. Her answer was precise. Too precise. Adrian returned his attention to the relay. "Can you identify the cause?" No, that answer surprised him. She did not pretend to know more than she did. The station shook. A low vibration moved through the hull. Loose maintenance tools shifted inside their magnetic holders as gravity compensation adjusted. Outside the cockpit glass, fragments from a damaged service platform drifted through the darkness, catching brief reflections from the relay's emergency lights. Mara Chen's voice came through the comm. "Adrian, Rescue Corridor 3 is collapsing." "How many?" 27 confirmed. The station computer calculated survival probability. 14. Adrian read the recommendation, then ignored it. "Seal the failed sections. Redirect auxiliary power to Corridor 3. Mara hesitated. "That will reduce the station's remaining operational time." "I know. You're choosing the lower survival calculation. I'm choosing the people still inside." The command executed. Power shifted. The station became less stable. The rescue corridor opened. The alien woman watched the numbers change across her sensor. Her device recorded the decision. Resource loss. Probability reduction. Human override. The result was inefficient. The outcome was better. Adrian noticed her attention. "You're collecting data." "Yes." "On me." "On the decision." That answer stayed with him. The woman was not watching him like a politician. She was studying him like an unknown system. The rescue operation continued manually. The station's automated controls rejected several repair attempts because the damage pattern did not match standard failures. Adrian worked from physical feedback instead of software predictions, adjusting connections as the relay structure shifted around him. The repair succeeded. Barely. When the final worker reached safety, the station entered emergency conservation mode. The alien woman looked through the observation window. "You sacrificed future stability for immediate survival." Adrian checked the remaining power reserves. "Yes." "Why?" He looked at the evacuation record. "Because the people affected by the failure were part of the system." She did not answer. Her sensors continued recording. The human decision remained difficult to classify. Later, when the emergency teams arrived, Adrian reviewed the station logs. Someone had modified the relay before the failure. The changes were small. Navigation permissions altered. Maintenance priorities shifted. Energy distribution adjusted. A sequence designed to look like ordinary decay. The alien woman saw the same record. Adrian turned toward her. "You knew this station was compromised." "I knew something was wrong." "That's different." "Yes." The answer was incomplete, but honest enough to matter. The relay continued transmitting its damaged signal into deep space. And for the first time, Adrian realized the station's failure was not the event. It was the evidence. The Vesper relay was no longer a rescue site. It was a crime scene. 2 days after the evacuation, the station remained in a restricted orbit while independent teams examined every surviving system. The damaged sections stayed sealed. No one repaired the broken outer ring. Not yet. Every alteration was evidence. Adrian stood inside the temporary analysis module attached to the relay. The room was smaller than a standard Helios operations center. Several systems had been removed to reduce energy consumption. The station had enough power to investigate its own failure. It did not have enough power to pretend nothing had happened. Mara appeared on the secure display. 3 groups requested the flight records. Who? Human Coalition Security, E3 Diplomatic Oversight, and a Neutral Trade Investigation Office. Adrian studied the requests. 2 coordinated. Mara checked the timestamps. The requests arrived within 6 minutes of each other. The timing bothered him, not because it proved cooperation, because it proved interest. Across the module, the alien woman examined the recovered data. She still had not explained her identity. She still had not left. Adrian did not know whether that made her useful or dangerous. Possibly both. You knew the relay was failing before we arrived, he said. She looked at the damaged systems map. I knew something was wrong. That's different. Yes. Her answer came without hesitation. No defense. No attempt to soften it. Adrian returned to the investigation. The first layer of data showed ordinary maintenance failures. The second showed irregular resource allocation. The third revealed the hidden pattern. Someone had moved resources away from critical areas before the emergency. Not enough to look intentional. Enough to matter. The alien woman stepped closer to the display. Your analysis is incomplete. Adrian looked at her. You have additional information. Yes. Will you share it? Yes. She transferred a small encrypted file. The data contained fragments of the station's internal records. Not a complete archive. Not a solution. A direction. The encryption was unfamiliar, but the structure was elegant. The file protected information instead of hiding its existence. Adrian analyzed the transfer. You could have sent this earlier. Yes. Why didn't you? Because I did not know if you would use it correctly. The answer changed the atmosphere between them. Not anger. A calculation. Adrian understood the reasoning. He disliked it anyway. He isolated the file from the main network. You're still treating me as a risk. You are a risk. Adrian looked at her. That's honest. Yes. The station shifted. Not physically. Electronically. A dormant system activated for less than a second. The E3 sensor on her wrist reacted before the human equipment. She noticed it. Adrian noticed her noticing it. What did your device detect? An access attempt. From where? She checked the reading. Your network. The answer changed the investigation. Adrian opened the security logs. A command had been issued using Helios Reach authorization. His authorization. The signature matched his personal verification pattern. The timestamp was 9 days earlier. Before the Vesper failure. Before his current investigation. Before the gap in his memory. He checked the record again. Then once more. The result remained unchanged. Mara saw the report. Adrian. He did not answer immediately. The missing memory was no longer just a personal problem. It was connected to the relay. Connected to his company. Connected to a decision he had already made. The alien woman studied his reaction. You don't remember. Adrian looked at her. You knew that. I suspected. The repeated answer bothered him more than a lie. How much do you know about what happened to me? She did not respond. The silence was information. Adrian closed the security file. The old instinct was simple. Find the missing data. Recover the lost information. Control the uncertainty. But the evidence showed something different. Someone had planned around his ability to investigate. Someone had expected him to look. Mara opened a new channel. Adrian, there is another problem. The display changed. A list of frontier supply routes appeared. Several Helios shipments had been redirected before reaching their destinations. Different locations. Same pattern. Adrian studied the routes. This started before Vesper. The alien woman looked at the map. Yes. For the first time, they were not standing on opposite sides of the mystery. They were looking at the same threat. That did not create trust. It created necessity. And necessity was the only reason either of them remained together. The supply routes changed the investigation. Vesper was no longer an isolated failure. It was a pattern. Adrian sat inside the relay's analysis module as the recovered Helios records expanded across the display. The route adjustments were small enough to avoid automatic detection. A medical shipment delayed by 6 hours. A replacement component redirected through a longer corridor. Emergency supplies moved away from colonies already operating with limited reserves. No single decision created a crisis. Together, they created pressure. Mara reviewed the data from Helios Reach. 3 frontier settlements reported shortages before anyone noticed the route changes. Adrian traced the movement paths. The delays were calculated. Yes, whoever did this understood logistics. The alien woman stood beside the secondary display, where they understood where your system would compensate. Adrian looked at her. You know how Helios Reach works. I know how large systems fail. The answer was incomplete, but different this time. She was no longer hiding behind silence alone. She was choosing what could safely be revealed. Adrian noticed the distinction. He did not trust her. He trusted the usefulness of her information. For now, that was enough. They continued through the archive records. The E3 sensor attached to the investigation terminal detected patterns invisible to human analysis software. It mapped energy fluctuations around corrupted files, showing where information had been altered without leaving ordinary digital damage. Adrian watched the process. Your technology detects the changes before the data does. The field around the information changes first. That's not how human systems work. No, a small answer. A large difference. The investigation moved deeper. The hidden records revealed a second layer of manipulation. Someone had used legitimate maintenance protocols to conceal intentional decisions. The system had not been hacked. It had been guided. Then Adrian found another authorization. A Helios command. His command. The same signature from Vesper. The same verification pattern. The timestamp was earlier. Before the relay failure. Before the memory gap. His hands remained still on the console. The display continued updating. You did something before you lost your memory, the alien woman said. Adrian looked at the record. That appears likely. You don't know what. No, the uncertainty was no longer theoretical. It belonged to him. Mara opened a private channel. Adrian, there's something else. A secure file appeared. The system required his authorization. He almost rejected it, then stopped. The old Adrian would have opened it immediately. The current Adrian hesitated. That hesitation mattered. He created an isolated copy instead. The file contained fragments of his own investigation notes. Incomplete. Encrypted. Written before the memory intervention. One line remained readable. Assume compromised access. Do not rely on internal authorization. Adrian stared at the message. He had prepared for the possibility that his own systems could be used against him. He had not prepared for the possibility that he himself could become the unknown variable. The alien woman watched the analysis. You planned for this. I planned for system failure. Not yourself. No. The answer carried no frustration. Only recognition. The station's remaining systems entered another conservation cycle. Power moved away from unused sections. The gravity stabilizers adjusted output to preserve critical areas. The environment changed gradually. Not through collapse. Through limitation. Every unused system became a choice. Every choice reduced another option. Adrian closed the investigation file. We need the original command source. The alien woman looked toward the encrypted records. Yes. Can you access E3 archives? A pause. Yes. Will they allow it? No. That was the first clear answer she had given about her own position. The station alarms interrupted the conversation. A remote request had arrived. Not from Helios Reach. Not from human authorities. E3 diplomatic oversight. The message requested the return of their representative. No accusation. No threat. Only an official request carrying the weight of a civilization. The alien woman read it. Her expression remained controlled, but her sensor readings changed. A subtle increase in biological stress. A response delayed by 2 seconds. Enough. You're afraid of them. No, the answer came immediately. Then she corrected it. I understand the consequences. That was different. The request remained unanswered. The hidden supply network remained active. And Adrian now had a second mystery. Not only who had used his identity, but why an E3 princess had been close enough to know it was happening. The diplomatic vessel left Vesper under observation. Not pursuit. Observation. That difference mattered. 3 governments had requested access to the investigation. None had issued a formal accusation. The evidence was incomplete, and incomplete evidence had little value in interstellar politics. Adrian understood that. Incomplete evidence could still destroy trust. The vessel moved through the frontier corridor with restricted communications. Every transmission passed through verification layers. Every data exchange was recorded. The precautions slowed everything. They also prevented mistakes. Adrian sat in the analysis compartment, reviewing the recovered command records. The files from Vesper remained unchanged. The Helios authorization still existed. His signature still appeared. The answer had not become easier. It had become harder. Across the compartment, the E3 woman reviewed a separate set of records. Adrian noticed the separation. You're keeping your own copy. Yes. Why? Because I do not know who has access to your systems. That includes me. Yes. The answer was direct. Adrian looked back at the display. A few days earlier, he would have considered that a refusal to cooperate. Now he understood it differently. She was protecting information because information had already been weaponized. That did not create trust. It created a shared problem. Mara entered through the secure channel. We found the next transfer point. A route appeared. A Frontier archive node. Independent records were stored there. If the altered logistics network had touched multiple systems, the archive could show the original movements before changes were applied. Adrian studied the distance. How long? For days. Too slow. Mara checked the surrounding traffic. We cannot move faster without reducing safety margins. Adrian accepted the answer. The vessel continued at the speed physics allowed. No shortcut. No perfect option. During the journey, Adrian and the E3 woman worked separately. They compared data. They challenged assumptions. They tested conclusions. She identified patterns in the energy signatures surrounding altered files. He identified economic patterns hidden inside supply decisions. Neither method was complete. Together, they became more useful. You are looking for intent, she said. I'm looking for consequences. Why? Intent can be disguised. She considered that. E3 investigations usually begin with motive. Human investigations often begin with damage. Neither approach replaced the other. The difference remained. The vessel reached the archive node on schedule. The station was older than Vesper. Its systems were designed for long-term storage rather than active operations. Large sections remained offline to preserve energy. The archive keeper granted temporary access after verifying both parties. Adrian noticed the delay. They don't trust us. The E3 woman looked at the authorization screen. They should not. The answer surprised him. You include yourself. Yes. That was the first time she placed herself inside the problem instead of outside it. The archive search began. The results appeared slowly. Original supply routes. Modified supply routes. Authorization chains. The pattern became visible. Resources had been redirected from both human and E3 systems. The same locations. The same timing. The same pressure points. Someone was not attacking one civilization. Someone was shaping the relationship between them. Adrian looked at the data. Why would someone do this? The E3 woman did not answer immediately. Because cooperation creates dependencies. And dependencies create weaknesses. Yes. A new file appeared. Restricted. The archive system required a higher authorization level. The E3 woman approached the terminal. The system recognized her access. Adrian watched the response. The archive did not identify her as an ordinary diplomat. It recognized a higher authority. He looked at her. Who are you? The question had changed. Before, it was curiosity. Now it was evidence. She removed her hand from the terminal. I cannot answer yet. The response damaged the fragile cooperation between them. But not completely, because the archive had already provided something more important. Her identity mattered. The investigation mattered more. The next file opened automatically. A warning appeared. Memory intervention record detected. Adrian looked at the screen. The archive had found a connection, not the missing memory itself. A record that proved someone had altered his access to it. The E3 woman saw the result. For the first time, she looked away from the data. Adrian noticed. And the investigation moved from suspicion into something more dangerous. Personal. The archive did not contain Adrian's missing memory. It contained evidence that the memory was never the real problem. The discovery remained on the screen. Memory intervention record detected. No one moved toward the terminal. The archive station continued its slow operation around them. Old storage systems maintained their cycles with reduced power. Cooling channels opened and closed according to priority levels. The station was not failing. It was surviving. Adrian studied the record. Open it. The E3 woman did not move. It requires authorization. From you. Yes. The answer confirmed what the archive had already shown. She had access because she was not an ordinary diplomat. She entered the authorization. The record appeared, not the content of his memories, the structure around them. A map of neural access restrictions. A timeline of the memory lattice procedure. A technical report describing what had been altered. Adrian read every line. The procedure had not removed his memories. It had changed access pathways. The information remained. The connection between events, emotions, and recall had been interrupted. A damaged bridge, not an empty space. He looked at the ethery woman. You knew? Her attention stayed on the report. I knew the procedure had been performed. Not that it would affect this. No, the distinction mattered. She understood the technology. She did not understand every consequence. The archive system continued processing. Adrian requested a restoration simulation. The system refused. Insufficient neural compatibility data. He tried another approach. The archive displayed a warning. Restoration may cause irreversible cognitive damage. The result changed the investigation. The missing memories could not simply be recovered. The original assumption was wrong. The technology had a limit. The more they forced the connection, the greater the damage. The ethery woman looked at the warning. Stop. Adrian did not answer immediately. The old plan was gone. Find the memory. Recover the truth. Move forward. The system could not provide that. Not safely. He removed the restoration request. The choice left a permanent uncertainty. The past remained incomplete. A notification appeared. The archive detected external access. Someone else was searching the same records. The station's security systems activated. Not an attack. A legal override. A request from E3 diplomatic oversight. The message contained a single instruction. Transfer custody of the archive investigation. The E3 woman read it. Adrian watched her sensor readings change. A slight increase in biological stress. A delayed response. Enough. They expected this. Yes. Because of your identity. Yes. The answer was no longer hidden. Not fully, but enough. The archive keeper transmitted an emergency restriction. The station could no longer provide unrestricted access. The investigation had reached a political boundary. Adrian closed the recovered files. The evidence was incomplete. The institutions were moving. The technology had failed. And the person closest to the secret had become the person most affected by it. Mara contacted them through the secure channel. We found another issue. A logistics map appeared. The redirected supplies were not only affecting frontier colonies. The altered routes connected to diplomatic shipments. Human and ethery resources had been manipulated together. The goal was not simply delay. It was pressure. Adrian looked at the map. The missing memory was no longer the center of the investigation. It was one part of a larger system. The ethery woman remained beside the archive terminal. The information she had protected was now creating a different danger. Adrian disconnected from the restoration system. We leave the archive. She looked at him. Without the memory. Yes. The decision was final. Not because the past mattered less. Because forcing it would destroy what remained. The vessel prepared for departure. The archive station continued recording. Behind them, the unanswered years remained locked inside Adrian's mind. Ahead of them, the consequences of the hidden network were already moving. The archive station did not release them immediately. The legal restriction remained active. Ethery oversight had locked the investigation records until a formal review team arrived. The human investigators had requested independent access. Neither side controlled the evidence. That was the point. Adrian stood near the departure terminal, watching the estimated arrival times. 3 days. Too long. The altered supply routes were still active. Every hour, without confirmation, created another opportunity for the hidden network to adjust. Mara appeared on the secure display. Helios Reach has suspended several automated logistics decisions. Adrian looked at the report. Because of the compromised authorization? Yes. How many routes are affected? Enough that human operators are taking over manually. The answer carried its own cost. The system was safer. The system was slower. Across the frontier, delayed shipments were becoming visible. Not dramatic failures. Small ones. A medical replacement arriving late. A mining colony reducing operations. A research station postponing maintenance. The kind of problems that rarely made headlines until they became impossible to ignore. Adrian closed the report. The network he built had always depended on speed. Now speed had become a risk. The ethery woman entered the departure area. Her official escort had arrived. 2 security officers waited behind her. They did not approach. They did not need to. Their presence was enough. Adrian noticed. They're taking you back. Yes. Will you go? She looked toward the archive station. No, the answer surprised him. Why? Because the investigation is no longer only about my identity. She looked at the sealed records. It concerns the systems I was supposed to protect. That did not erase what she had done. Adrian knew that. She knew that. The departure request remained unanswered. A new message arrived. This time, from the Interstellar Accord. Both parties were ordered to submit temporary statements. Not accusations. Not defenses. Statements. The difference was intentional. The political system was slowing the situation down before it became a conflict. Adrian opened the required form. The first question was simple. Did you authorize memory intervention? He stopped. The answer was obvious. The consequences were not. He entered the truth. Yes. The submission required confirmation. He pressed it. The report was sent. Across E3 space, Lyra did the same. Her statement traveled through official channels. The procedure, the subject, the lack of consent, the reason. The information was incomplete, but it was no longer hidden. The reaction was immediate. Not universal. Not simple. Human networks divided. Some demanded punishment. Others questioned whether the intervention had prevented a larger disaster. E3 citizens reacted differently. Some viewed the disclosure as necessary accountability. Others saw it as a threat to the stability of their civilization. No side had a single answer. The vessel departed the archive station before the review teams arrived. The journey back was slower. The navigation system operated under restricted mode. Several predictive functions had been disabled after the Helios security breach. Manual verification became routine. Crew members checked calculations that software once completed automatically. The change was inconvenient. It was also necessary. During the return flight, Adrian reviewed the original memory lattice report again. Not to restore the missing memory, to understand the damage. The procedure had preserved information. It had damaged access. The distinction remained. A person could not be rebuilt from recovered files. A warning appeared. Neural synchronization remained below previous baseline. The medical system recommended reduced cognitive workload. Adrian ignored it for 6 minutes. Then corrected course. He transferred several tasks to other operators. A small decision. A different one. Lyra noticed. You delegated. Yes. Before, you would not. Adrian looked at the operations display. Before, I had different information. That was all he said. No explanation. No conclusion. Only an adjustment. The vessel entered the outer frontier zone. Ahead, communication traffic increased. Behind, the archive records remained sealed. The investigation had exposed the existence of manipulation. It had not exposed everyone responsible. The hidden network was still active. The political consequences had begun, and the two people who revealed the problem were now carrying the weight of it. The first public hearing lasted 19 hours. The final report took 4 days. Neither result gave anyone the answer they wanted. The Interstellar Accord released a preliminary statement confirming 3 facts. The memory lattice procedure had occurred. The procedure had involved a human citizen without full consent. The evidence of coordinated supply manipulation remained under investigation. The statement avoided judgment. The public did not. Adrian watched the reactions from the Helios Operations Center. The building had become quieter since the coordination core was removed. Fewer automated decisions. More direct communication. The system still worked. It worked differently. Mara placed a report on his terminal. 3 major clients suspended contracts. Adrian read the details. They believe Helios' reach was compromised. Yes. Are they wrong? Mara did not answer immediately. That was enough. Adrian had built a network based on reliability. The possibility that his own authorization had been used against it damaged the foundation. Even if he was not responsible for the manipulation, the system had failed under his leadership. The distinction mattered less to the people affected by it. A warning appeared. Another frontier shipment had been delayed. No sabotage. No attack. A consequence. The reduced logistics capacity had created a real limitation. Adrian looked at the report. Prioritize medical transport. Mara checked the available routes. That will delay industrial supplies. I know. The decision was logged. Another trade-off. Another cost. Across E3 space, Lyra faced a different hearing. The E3 Council did not question whether the memory lattice had been used. They questioned why a future ruler had decided that protection justified control. The discussion was formal, measured, severe. Lyra answered every question. She did not defend the choice. She did not deny the reason. The result was temporary suspension of several royal authorities. Her security access was reduced. Her influence inside the council weakened. The title remained. The power changed. When she returned to the observation deck, Adrian was already there. The distance between them had changed again. Not because of anger, because the consequences were now shared. You should leave the investigation, Adrian said. Lyra looked toward the frontier routes. No, the council will use this against you. Yes. That matters. Yes. The answer frustrated him. Not because it was wrong, because he understood it. She had spent years believing control prevented disaster. Now she was choosing responsibility without control. That did not make the decision safe. A new transmission interrupted them. A hidden logistics node had gone offline. The evidence chain was breaking. Adrian reviewed the timing. The shutdown occurred after the public disclosure. The opposing faction had adapted. They had expected investigation. They had prepared for it. The old strategy failed. More data, more analysis, more verification. Each step had created better understanding. None had stopped the damage. Adrian opened the operational history. The same pattern appeared. Small failures, small delays, small decisions. He had spent his career finding system weaknesses before they became disasters. Now he saw the weakness in his own method. He searched for the perfect explanation. The system moved faster than explanations. Lyra reviewed the E3 records. She found the same limitation. Every protected channel she had used became a channel someone could target. The structures designed to preserve stability had become predictable. Neither of them had been defeated by a lack of intelligence. They had been defeated by the assumptions they trusted. The vessel received an emergency request from a frontier colony. A supply route had failed. The nearest rescue resources were delayed. The old Helios coordination system would have calculated the fastest response. That system no longer existed. Adrian looked at the available options. The fastest route carried unacceptable fuel risk. The safer route arrived too late. There was no perfect answer. He chose the safer route with additional manual support. The decision saved resources. It did not save everyone. The report arrived later. A delay had caused preventable damage. No single person caused it. No single decision fixed it. The consequence remained. Adrian closed the report. The cost of his earlier choices was no longer theoretical. Lyra stood beside the operations display. Neither spoke. The next step required something neither of them had been willing to give. Not more control. Not more protection. A complete disclosure of everything they still had left to lose. The final transmission window lasted 6 minutes and 42 seconds. The calculation appeared simple. The reality was not. The Frontier Relay Network had enough capacity to send the evidence. It did not have enough capacity to guarantee that every independent system would receive it before the compromised channels were isolated. Adrian studied the relay map from the Helios Operations Center. The remaining coordination systems worked without the lost strategic core. They were slower, more dependent on human verification. Every route required someone to make a decision. Every decision carried risk. Mara connected through the secure channel. The relay will accept the evidence package. Then why isn't it transmitting? She transferred the diagnostic. Adrian read the results. Power limitation. Signal degradation. Relay instability. The system was not broken. It was operating within its remaining capacity. The evidence package was too large. Lyra reviewed the transmission structure. Reduce the data. Adrian shook his head. Too much context disappears. Send everything. Too slow. The choice remained. Incomplete proof. Or no proof. The opposing faction had not created a technological problem. They had created a time problem. A message appeared from the Interstellar Accord. Final review window, limited. After the window closed, emergency legal restrictions would begin. The evidence would enter a slower process. Years, possibly. Adrian looked at the relay, then at the Helios resource map. A system appeared. The coordination core. The damaged core that remained offline after the earlier sacrifice. It still contained reserve power pathways. Not enough to restore the network. Enough to increase relay output. Mara saw the command request. No, Adrian stopped. You know what happens. Yes. The core was not a simple power source. It was the intelligence structure that optimized Helios reach operations across thousands of routes. It was already damaged. Using its remaining capacity would permanently destroy it. The network would continue. But without the system that made it exceptional. Adrian opened the authorization panel. Owner verification required. His personal signature appeared. The same signature that had been used against him. For a moment, he looked at it. Then he removed the restriction. The command accepted. Energy began transferring. The operations center changed immediately. Routing assistance disappeared. Prediction systems went offline. Navigation support reduced. Across Helios reach, operators received alerts. Strategic core failure imminent. The loss was not hidden. It was recorded. Ether sensors monitoring the event measured the power transfer and the reduction in future capability. The calculation was clear. A civilization-scale logistics network was voluntarily damaging its own efficiency. Lyra watched the readings. She did not speak. She opened the second transmission file. Her identity record. The memory lattice report. The authorization history. Her responsibility. The file waited for royal confirmation. A warning appeared. Public disclosure will terminate protected status. Lyra placed her hand on the interface. The system confirmed her authority. The royal encryption opened. Across E3 networks, the information became available. Not a statement. Not an argument. A record. The transmission began. The relay struggled. Power levels dropped. The Helios core continued degrading. Mara watched the numbers. Adrian, the core is past recovery. He continued monitoring the transmission. I know. The final reserve pathways failed. The coordination core shut down permanently. The relay gained enough output. The evidence moved outward. One independent node received it. Then another. Then another. The opposing faction reacted. A legal isolation command reached the relay. The command was valid. The authorization was legitimate. The system began preparing to disconnect. Adrian checked the remaining transmission path. The original route was closing. He switched to manual routing. The system displayed the probability. High failure risk. He accepted. No prediction system remained to optimize the choice. Only human verification. The relay transferred the final evidence packet. Then the connection ended. The station returned to reduced operation. The Helios coordination core was gone. The royal protection surrounding Lyra's identity was gone. The investigation could continue because both of them had removed the tools they once depended on. The opposing faction had not been defeated in a single moment. Their influence remained. Their resources remained. Their political power remained. But the evidence existed outside their control. The transmission logs recorded every loss, every damaged system, every irreversible choice. The frontier relay continued operating at reduced capacity. And across the stars, governments, corporations, and ordinary people received the same incomplete truth. Enough to begin asking the questions that could no longer be avoided. The first review after the transmission lasted 31 days. The evidence was enough. It was not everything. That difference shaped every decision that followed. Independent investigators confirmed the altered logistics network, the manipulated supply routes, and the attempts to create distrust between human and E3 systems. The people responsible were identified gradually. Some were officials, some were contractors, some were organizations that had benefited from uncertainty. The process moved slowly because the damage had spread through systems built over years. No single arrest repaired the harm. No single announcement restored confidence. Adrian stood inside the rebuilt Helios Operations Center and watched a new logistics route activate. The display was different now. Fewer predictions, more verification steps, more human oversight. The network moved slower. It also revealed mistakes earlier. Mara placed the latest performance report beside him. Efficiency is down 14%. Adrian read the numbers. And reliability? Improved. He nodded. The answer was not satisfying. It was accurate. Helios Reach survived, but the company that returned was not the one that existed before Vesper. The Strategic Coordination Core could not be replaced. Its loss changed how every rescue mission was planned. Every future operation carried that absence. The cost remained visible. Across E3 space, Lyra faced a different future. The council review ended with restrictions. She kept her title. She lost several authorities connected to succession decisions. Her actions were recorded permanently in the royal archives. Future generations would know both parts. The princess who protected a civilization. The princess who violated an individual's right to choose. Neither fact erased the other. Lyra returned to the neutral station where the revised cooperation agreement waited. Adrian arrived later. There was no ceremony, no public announcement, only the document. The agreement contained independent oversight, shared verification, and strict limits on cognitive technology access. Lyra read the restrictions carefully. You included your own company under these rules. Yes. You could have requested an exception. Adrian looked at the document. I could have. She signed first. Not as an apology. Not as a request for approval. As acceptance of the same limits applied to everyone else. Adrian signed after her. The agreement did not repair their relationship. It created conditions where repair could happen. That was different. Months later, the first joint rescue mission under the new framework launched toward a damaged frontier station. The mission was slower than previous Helios operations. The route required additional checks. The crew manually verified calculations that once happened automatically. When a navigation error appeared, they caught it before departure. No system predicted the mistake. People did. The E3 monitoring equipment recorded the mission, resource usage, decision timing, correction patterns. The data showed inefficiency. It also showed adaptation. The rescue vessel reached the station. Not early. Not perfectly. In time. Adrian reviewed the final report after the mission ended. The conclusion was simple. The new system worked. Not because it removed uncertainty. Because it was designed around the existence of uncertainty. A message arrived from Lyra. She requested a private meeting. They met on the station's observation deck. Beyond the glass, transport vessels crossed the orbital lanes between human and E3 territory. Trade continued. Research continued. Rescue operations continued. The galaxy had not changed overnight. Neither had they. I still do not remember everything, Adrian said. Lyra looked toward the traffic lanes. I know. The procedure cannot be reversed. I know. The words were not a request for comfort. They were facts. Adrian studied her. You saved my life. Lyra remained quiet. You also took something from me. Yes. The answer carried no defense. No explanation. Only acknowledgement. The distance between them remained. But it was no longer hidden. Their future was not built on forgetting what happened. It was built around the decision to face what remained. Far away, the Vesper relay continued operating with reduced capacity. Its damaged sections were still visible. Its systems still carried the record of the failure. And every time a message passed through its network, the logs preserved the same truth. Some systems could be repaired. Some costs had to be carried. The stars continued moving. So did the people beneath them. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. If you had the power to protect millions, but the choice required taking away one person's freedom, would you make the same decision? Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe to Galactic Contact for more cinematic stories of humanity among the stars.